Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Late Friday night, the Florida Gator commitment sweatshirt comes back on. Four-star edge rusher KJ Ford committing to Florida. For the Florida fans who follow the recruiting trail pretty damn closely, we were just taking on a wild ride. I mean, this was a guy that all the buzz was around Florida for the last 2 weeks. Then you wake up Thursday morning, all the buzz seemed to be around Alabama. Then you wake up Friday morning, the buzz back on Florida side. He ends up committing to Florida Friday night. Look, I've already been on Twitter and I've been on the message boards. I'm seeing what the opposing fan bases are saying. Florida dropped the bag for KJ Ford. Well, gosh darn it. Like, this is the kind of football player that you drop a bag for. I mean, one, he's one of the best players in the country at a premium position. Was one of the biggest needs for Florida in the 2026 cycle. He's their first edge rusher committed, and he's going to be ready to play relatively early. And what I mean by that is, look, I know there's such a thing as a developmental prospect in the sport. When you are looking at who are the players you want to allocate some serious resources to at the high school ranks, to me, it's the guys that have really high ceilings, like I think KJ Ford does, but you don't want to be paying them a ton of money for the first 2 years while they sit the bench and develop. I mean, I look at KJ Ford and say, hey, this is a guy that's going to come into Florida next year, probably going to be a rotational member of the defensive line as a true freshman. And you look at him in Duncanville, it's all right, 6'3.5", 245 pounds. He looks like an SEC edge rusher at the high school ranks, one of the technically cleanest prospects in the 2026 cycle. He checks off all the boxes of a guy that you want to push your resources to at the high school ranks. Really big commitment for Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. Fired up to get into him before we do, and as always, to the Florida fans, it ain't nothing I'd rather be doing on a Friday night than throwing on the Florida Gator commitment sweatshirt and breaking down a commitment like KJ Ford. The amount of support that y'all have shown the boys throughout the summer months has been amazing. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Have a phenomenal Friday night. Without further ado, let's get into KJ Ford. And here's what I like about KJ Ford the most. This kid is multidimensional. I mean, he's a guy that has a very, very good first step. He's got some nice bend on the outside shoulder of offensive tackles. That's to say, hey, he can beat tackles with his burst and bend. But he's also a guy that has 6'3.5", 245 pounds. He's got some serious power in his hands as well. He can just put tackles right into the lap of the quarterback as well. When you see these edge rushers that can win from a variety of different ways, that's what makes you a game wrecker at the collegiate ranks. I'm also a massive fan of what he does in the run game, and that's something that I feel like we don't talk enough about when we're talking about these kids coming out of high school. Look, you want to get after the passer. You want to rack up all the sack numbers that are super flashy to talk about. Well, it starts with stopping the run on first and second down. KJ Ford, he can hold up the point of attack and get off blocks and be present in the run game as well. He's got all the physical traits that you're looking for. He's a very, very polished and clean prospect, very similar to how we talked about Jake Cruel as well. I mean, I thought Jake Cruel, unfortunately, he's not in the top 3 for Florida anymore. Or I should say Florida's not in the top 3 for Jake Cruel anymore. Very similar kind of prospects, guys that are really, really good at the high school ranks, playing some of the best high school football in the country, but are also guys that are ready to play at the collegiate landscape early. That's kind of how I sum up KJ Ford. Plays really hard too. Very, very high motor, which is, let's just say it, sometimes can be rare when you're talking about some of the best players from across the country. Turning on the film for just a second, he is, at least in my opinion, one of my favorite kids to watch because, you see him win in so many different ways. I mean, you see the twitch, you see the power in his hands, closing speed. I mean, he's a guy that closes the gap between himself and the quarterback at a very, very high level. And as you continue to work through the film, you're going to see him win in a variety of different ways. I mean, right here, we are getting off the line of scrimmage. This tackle, I don't even think gets a hand on KJ Ford. And you see some nice bend around that tackle's outside shoulder, going out and making a play. Very clear that he plays with his hair on absolute fire. And you continue to work through and say, all right, we got some devastating power in our hands as well. and we can go out and have a high motor and continue to work towards the quarterback, a guy that can win in a variety of different ways. That's what stands out to me the most. Is this a guy that's a complete football player that plays with the high motor? The projection to me is very, very clean. Like, I would be stunned if KJ Ford is not a multi-year contributor for Florida over the next couple of years. Now, you look at Florida's class in 2025 and say, this is kind of what we talked about during the summer, is Florida has set a nice, I would say, base to their class in 2026. You filled up your offensive line class. You like what you have at quarterback and running back. Now we're looking to go out and land those high-end, big-name targets on our board. KJ Ford was one of them. Now he commits to Florida. An emerging storyline that I want to talk about is at the linebacker position. DQ Forkpa was supposed to commit tomorrow, has pushed his commitment date back. It sounds like Michigan is going to be making a run at DQ Fork, but here's my take on the linebacker situation. Just get one of these two. DQ Forkpa, Isaiah Williams. If you land one of them to go along with Malik Morris, who I think's about as rock solid, locked into Florida as it gets, feel pretty good about the linebacker class. I would actually probably prefer a guy like Isaiah Williams. I think Isaiah Williams complements what Malik Morris does better. Malik Morris is this absolute hammerhead shark of a linebacker that loves to play in a phone booth, that loves to take on blocks and fit the run game. Well, Isaiah Williams is a little bit longer, a little bit more of a hyper athlete that can go sideline to sideline, rush the passer off the edge. I think they would complement each other really well in terms of the skill sets that they have. Now, we got another name coming off the board tomorrow in Heze Ken. Been one of Florida's biggest targets, and we've talked about him a lot. What I think could be a really fun tight end in terms of what he can do as an inline blocker. We're talking 6'6", 310, but has some really unique athleticism. I don't think he'd be a massively dangerous pass catching threat, but specifically in the red zone, I could see getting some real value out of Heze Ken. But when he lines up in line, that's basically having a 6 offensive lineman on the football field. Again, I personally think he's going to transition to tackle at some point. If I'm Billy Napier in this coaching staff, it's hard for me to look at a 6'6", 310-pound body that has the athleticism that Heze Ken has and not want to put him as an offensive tackle. So momentum building for Florida. And it's been kind of a little bit of a roller coaster, right? Florida was ripping in the month of June. Kind of, I wouldn't say petered out, but it was a quiet back half of the month. Well, you look up in July and say, if Florida's starting to get it going again on the recruiting trail, big one with KJ Ford. We'll sign out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we talk to y'all later. Peace.